When you talk about expansion, you said in the past that you didn't want to raid other conferences. What about independent schools, maybe like Army, for instance?
Well, again, we like playing two divisions with 12 teams. I'm not going to argue that we're thrilled with the 11-team setup. We think it'll work. We got a waiver, as you know, from the NCAA to play with 11 teams for 2 years, 20 and 21, have a championship game and still maintain our 8 conference game schedule, which is really important to us. We don't have to play a round robin. We can keep our 4 non-conference games, which is very important to the development of this league. As you know, we play the so-called P5 conferences generally twice a year per team. So we have that. And as far as expansion, you know, we're not, I don't want to rile up the college community. I'm not talking about rating other conferences, that sort of thing. There are some independents out there. We all know who they are. I don't usually name any one team. If there's an interest in joining us, we would absolutely look at it. But right now, there hasn't really been, any such interest. And at this point, we're very likely to stay at 11 in 2020. And 21, who knows? We do have the ability to do that. In addition, we can apply for an extension of the waiver for 22 and 23, but those are hard to get. Extensions are hard. We may decide to press for legislation that would allow us to continue playing at 11 if we have to. But the only thing I'll close by saying, we don't want to be forced to expand, and we don't want to take a team that we don't think fits our conference either culturally, geographically, in terms of the brand. You know, we've got a powerful conference now. I mean, you can see what we've done, and in talking to the ESPN, talent today, they recognize how deep we are. We don't want to do anything to dilute that in any way. So at this point, there are some teams out there that potentially could add some value, but unless there's interest, we're not going to pursue it.
It is the second year in a row that Memphis got game day and prime time. How important is it for the conference to be on national TV in the morning time and the evening time?
Well, first of all, to have 2 years in a row, a conference game, not a non-conference game, where it's really the conference that's doing it. And we were thrilled to have Notre Dame Temple a few years ago and in Independence Hall. We've also had some pretty iconic locations, Beale Street today, Independence Hall. But it's huge for our conference. We didn't expect this necessarily. At the last minute we were told that it was certainly possible. And as you know, Tulsa came within a hair of beating both teams, which we wouldn't be here today talking about this. But the real message is how strong our conference is. These are four different teams. We're talking about 2 different teams. It's not UCF again. And UCF's an excellent team, by the way. They won again today, 7-2. We've got a lot of good teams. When you can get 2 different teams on conference games to have game day and the primetime game, that's enormous for us. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be a P6 conference, and this is the way you achieve that. You have that kind of depth and balance where you can have it. Now, I don't know whether we'll have 3 years in a row of this. I could even see a scenario where we could have another game this year if things work out. And also, you have to be fortunate too, because next week, I'll give you an example. You have Penn State, Minnesota, 2 undefeated teams. It's at Minnesota. I'm sure game day would love to go there. They may not have been to Minnesota in years and years. And yet, you have LSU, Alabama on that day. And that's another game of the century, our 15th game of the century in the last 20 years. But the point is, it is a huge game, obviously. And so consequently, they'll probably end up there. I don't know. I can't read their minds. But it worked out for us. And by the way, I just want to say, the people of Memphis, just incredible. They turned out. The scene there was incredible. The signs, I love the signs. I love it. Just was one. And the ESPN people, Kirk Herbstreit tweeted what a just tremendous, event it was. Turnout. I think they enjoyed it as much as any game day they've done. And I just think it's a credit to the community to turn out like that. And we're talking about 8 in the morning and everybody getting there at 5, 6 in the morning, cold morning, and it was just spectacular. I really was pleased, and I was proud of the conference. And the last thing I'll say about that is Memphis deserved this. Obviously, the SMU story is terrific. 8-0, coming back from the death penalty. That's a huge story. But if Memphis hadn't been doing what they've been doing, especially the last several years, people forget how good this program has been ever since 2014, when Justin Fuente turned it around, and then obviously Mike Norvell's continued it. That really made a huge difference. If you know, this team wasn't 7-1, then, you know, game day wouldn't be here. And it's a real tribute to what Memphis has done. And I think the fan base turned out because they know what this program has done. This has been great for the city.
Commissioner, what are your thoughts on the fair pay to play? I know the NCAA came out with something on Tuesday, I think it was.
Yes, I knew that would come up. You know, I've been pretty outspoken that you have to be really cautious about this. I think the board is measured. It was measured in its response. The board wants to try to figure out a way to do name, image, and likeness without essentially paying players, and also by controlling the environment. Because remember, we run a national enterprise, and the NCAA is the schools, and you have to have certain rules that apply to everyone. And you also, this involves recruiting. This is not the Olympics where every 4 years you get together and you're not competing against each other and recruiting players. You know, we can all obviously see the potential, you know, for problems. If, you know, you have endorsements, you know, is a company going to, you know, pay a player an endorsement because they want to recruit or retain that player? I mean, these are real issues. We really have to deal with these. I don't envy that committee that has to come up with an actual hard recommendation, because this is a really tough problem. And I've said too that I firmly believe in the amateur model. I think that the benefits, you know, bestowed on athletes and, you know, student athletes, and they do a great job and they have to work hard, are pretty good. And I think that the schools have a right to run an amateur enterprise. You know, you don't have to go. Now, granted, there's the NBA has a certain rule right now, and maybe that won't be there in a few years. You can go play in the XFL, you can play in Europe. You don't have to necessarily participate this way. So my feeling is, something like this, if you risk the slippery slope, and that's why I think the board was cautious in what it said. The other thing is process. I think California and other states can pass laws, but we're running a national enterprise, and it has to have national rules. It has to apply to everybody. Thousands of schools participate at various levels. You have 130 in FBS, you have 360 in Division I basketball. If you don't have uniform rules, you can't have what we have. And so I'm not sure that the California legislators weren't just trying to send a signal, although they claim that if the NCAA doesn't, you know, go as far as they did, and they just went carte blanche, and I don't think the board wants to go there. I think there's going to be a struggle down the road, and I don't know where it's going to go. But I do think that if you do something incrementally, you've got to be really careful. And typically this wouldn't involve a lot of people. And it's not as though if they play a year in college basketball, you can go to the NBA. You know, football's a little different, but in a short period of time, you become a pro, you can monetize your name, image, and likeness. If you're doing it at the college level, there have to be some guardrails, there have to be some safeguards. Otherwise, you know, you've got a situation that could get out of control, and then it's not the kind of enterprise it's been. And the schools, I think, if it's not tethered to education at all anymore, I think the schools are going to have serious problems with it.